Abusia I the treaty so asem asi. Donald Trump edi ababe to bia say NATO for and I say European Union Oma me support no e wo saa okun we mu a obefiri NATO no. Asem asi. Osi se NATO for anse se mo mfidie amma medwene no e wo saa okun we mu a ono obe withdraw afiri NATO mu omo mfa omo ba bi na ono soso mfa ni ba bi na US wonte na omo ba bi boko na ekoba ne saa de a na chese Russia omanya advantage e wo wiase because currently Russia for kre bom paye say NATO no ensenye basa NATO no obi amfirifiri mu na NATO no nye condemn say de omo Russia for no betima te omo strong alliance because ye can see here ye de ani chiri mu ewo other Asia countries na omo bembe Eastern Europe Belarus no ne stand for no nyina omo nyina edwene Russia nti se koba ne se NATO eseya ana se US free NATO mu a US na man NATO ewo power because obi bi obe fight any NATO member be a US na or intervene wo pese udi NATO bone anase wo pese wo ye European Union for member bi bone no US for and backing NATO with money, ammunition, everything. And he said Donald Trump trying to free NATO mu no so for US and Kosha CBM dia. And then now US no 2 million na ko di Russia forecast nipa beda. And no na ma o dey threat e dey akoma NATO for say mo be join me ama yanko. Na the Strait of Hormuz nsuo no yambiem ama shipon foma ma obi anya na so wie o yen sense mu a me free NATO mu na mo afa mu NATO e ba na sa dey atadwe Russia for Ari Atenide.
Donald Trump says he's strongly considering pulling the US out of the NATO alliance, unhappy with the reluctance of some members to join offensive operations in the war with Iran. With the latest, here's Paul Adams.
Iran is still firing back. These drones aimed, it says, at American bases in the Middle East. Donald Trump says Iran wants a ceasefire. That's not yet how it looks. The US and Israel continue to bomb. The president says it could all be over in 2 or 3 weeks. But how to remove Iran's stranglehold over the Strait of Hormuz? The reluctance of Washington's NATO allies to get involved while the war still rages, a source of mounting frustration. Not for the first time, the president says he's had enough. NATO, he told The Telegraph, is a paper tiger. Pulling America out is beyond reconsideration.
Unfortunately, we are going to have to re-examine whether or not this alliance that has served this country well for a while is still serving that purpose, or has it now become a one-way street where America is simply in a position to defend Europe, but when we need the help of our allies, they're going to deny us basing rights and they're going to deny us overflight?
Britain has allowed American bombers to use RAF Fairford for what are described as purely defensive operations. The Prime Minister determined to resist America's demands for more.
Whatever the pressure on me and others, whatever the noise, I'm going to act in the British national interest in all the decisions that I make. And that's why I've been absolutely clear that this is not our war, and we're not going to get dragged into it.
25 years ago, a very different story. British troops among a host of NATO members joining a US-led campaign in Afghanistan in the wake of terrorist attacks on America. The only time NATO's collective defense clause has been invoked. Donald Trump has long had a bumpy relationship with NATO, arguing during his first term that members were exploiting American goodwill.
But 23 of the 28 member nations are still not paying what they should be paying and what they are supposed to be paying for their defense. This is not fair to the people and taxpayers of the United States.
This year, the president's threat to take over Greenland sent shockwaves through the alliance. Hardly surprising that when he decided to go to war with Iran, allies weren't rushing to his side.
Trump has never understood what NATO is from the very start in his first presidency. NATO is a defensive alliance. It's to have collective defence against an attack in Europe or North America against one of its members. Very clear in the treaty. It's not about following the US into whatever war it chooses to undertake.
In Norway's Arctic North last month, a NATO exercise named, perhaps unfortunately, Cold Response. Thanks to the war with Iran, is the alliance about to face its worst crisis yet? Paul Adams, BBC News.
Gary Donoghue is live at the White House for us. Mr. Trump, he's never been a big fan of NATO. Now he says he's considering pulling the US out. How easy would that be, Gary?
Well, the Constitution is pretty clear on the President's ability to make treaties. He's allowed to do that with what's called the advice and consent of the Senate. The problem is, the Constitution is absolutely silent on whether presidents can withdraw from treaties. Now, the President has withdrawn from various treaties in the past, including the previous Iran treaty negotiated under President Obama, and he's withdrawn from other treaties too, Open Skies, Paris Climate, all those kinds of things. So he could think he can do it. The problem for him is that his very own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, sponsored an amendment to the Defence Act just in 2023 that says the President can't withdraw from NATO without an act of Congress or, again, two-thirds of the Senate voting for it. So that would have to be tested in the court. So that's one thing. The other thing, of course, is that NATO, its own articles, requires anyone who wants to withdraw, no country ever has, to notify the US that it wants to do so and give a year's notice. Well, the Americans would have to tell themselves they want to withdraw and then tell everyone else. Now, on the address tonight, we're hearing that the Iranians have issued an open letter to the American people saying it's time for engagement, not conflict. The President is going to give an important update on Epic Fury. And the White House has released a kind of whole list of times in which they say the aims of the war have been unchanging, unwavering, completely consistent, sensitive, of course, to the idea that the objectives have been changing. None of those objectives...
So I can bring you tea.
Buried under all that rubble. The President says now he doesn't care about that.